of my way, motherfragger. Who you calling motherfragger, motherfucker? Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh overview. Today we're going to take a little look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Lobo. First off, I appreciate McFarlane Toys sending out a box of goodies for me to look at, but out of all of that, well, okay, I am kind of a Joker fiend. But when it comes to my display, 1/12 scale for the most part. Lobo, sometimes he's depicted as huge, sometimes he's normal size, somewhere in between. So I feel like at 7-inch scale, I can find a way to fudge this onto a shelf somewhere. Plus it's Lobo, just kicking ass, taking names, and rolling his way through the universe. Looking at the package, it's what we're used to with McFarlane's DC Multiverse line. There's the black with the white borders, the DC Multiverse, the blue in the background. You see everything you're getting in the package. On the side says Lobo, another logo. Here's McFarlane Toys. On the back, I'm not sure why they moved away from using actual comic book art. Down here, other figures that are available at this time. On the other side, Lobo, DC Rebirth. I've never read it, but looks like Lobo. On the top, more window, 22 moving parts. On the bottom, legalese and company jargon and UPC, but let's get this open, see what's going on here. And it's actually been a little bit since I've opened a DC Multiverse figure. Oh yeah, whole tray. Blistered to the backer board, say that 3 times fast. There's that same picture from the back of the package, but in trading card form. And there's your whole bio. There's also this simple disc stand. It has DC Tampo to it, 1-foot peg. Nice and simple. And ooh, I really like this. It's been a minute since I've messed with a McFarlane figure, and while there's a familiarity, there's also an excitement. I don't know what it is about Lobo. I mean, just look at all the detail in the sculpt here. The pockets and the texture to the leather vest, the torn off sleeves. Like, it used to be a full jacket. Not anymore. The t-shirt underneath has the appropriate texture to it. You'll notice that it is kind of turned, like he's got his shirt tucked in, but it's off to the side a little bit because Lobo don't care. Plus, he's worn this shirt a few times, or at least once before, but at that time, he was getting shot at, looks like. I wish that was painted skin tone underneath or inside the bullet holes, but it's small enough that it's not really noticeable. Speaking of skin, there's also a texture to that is different from all the rest. It's definitely like humanoid, organic, I guess. Back here on the elbow, some extra detail. Yes, the joint gaps it up. You're also getting this much range, so it's kind of a trade-off. They did a good job of integrating the bicep swivel up around the shoulder. That's more seamless than usual. The gloves are kind of a wrap, and that is part of the, well, no, actually it is a cover, which helps in getting out of the way for wrist articulation. Fingerless gloves, some sculpt at the knuckles. Here it almost seems like a metal plate on the back that didn't get painted like the plates in other places. Like at the Sculpt belt buckle, there's some of those rivets that kind of match that same. But then there's metal studs painted around the belt, and those just look great. Very metallic. Yet another different texture to the pants, some wrinkles coming down to more metal, more skulls. Rah! Just a beautiful sculpt to those knee pads. Then a ring of spikes going over the top that are softer, along with these down here. Because this whole shin guard on the front with its layers and stuff, that is also a rubber overlay, which helps down at the ankle again, because it flexes out. The back of the leg has straps to make it seem like that's holding on the front pad, but those aren't painted either. It's just the blue of the pants, which we do see a lot on McFarlane Toys. That the back is usually not as painted, but here, whoa! Nice detail work to the yellows, the whites, the reds. Bite Me Fanboy is just quintessential Lobo. It would have felt naked if that was left off. And it's not just painted, it is sculpted on there, so it feels like a patch stuck on. Big heavy stomping boots have more metal plates over the top, around the toe, studded, not spiked. Expected spikes for some reason, but that would also hurt. And then the head seals the deal. I actually made fun of this during a Fwoosh Weekly because of the brows and how it looks like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer vampire. Getting it in hand, it just looks like he's really mean and angry. Not at anything in particular, just everything. I don't know if it's comic accurate that the face is so much wider than the skin tone. I expected it to be all this gray, but it also helps the head to stand out from all the craziness that's going on here. With it being as bright white as it is, some of the sculpted detail gets lost if you have lights shining right on it. Watch this. See the furrow in the brow and the cheeks and everything else. Then the red eyes are poking out from the black Kiss makeup. Well, okay, it's very Kiss makeup, isn't it? Now that I think about it. Mustache, his beard, and unlike the spikes down there, if you go to articulate his head up, those can get kind of sharp. The hair with its blue highlights does a good job of differentiating that from the jacket. It's a different kind of black. And it's just a nice sculpt. Going through Lobos, which we'll do in a minute, I think this may be my favorite hair sculpt on a Lobo. In fact, I may call it right now that this is my favorite Lobo. And it is rubbery, so it gets out of the way of articulation. One thing that may be a personal preference, maybe a pet peeve of mine, is the hair sticking out like this. I may put just a dab of glue right there, hold it down like that. Although that's not bad either. That's just, for some reason, that bugs me. Also, I talked about the arm articulation and how much range it gives you. Unfortunately, you get down to the ankles, and I don't know if it's the detents down there or what, but he can be kind of a bear to stand up. I swear, if you move it around a little bit, it does get back heavy at times. With the pants coming down like they do, and even this getting out of the way, there's not a super amount of range here. But I also noticed that you have to pay attention where the rocker ankle is. Make sure the foot is flat on the ground when you go to stand up. Speaking of articulation, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck. Looks up, looks down. So much tilt. Swivel. There is a dumbbell joint coming out from the shoulder with a cap to kind of hide it. In fact, if you push here, that does like to pop out sometimes. There's that cap that hides the gap. Some up, some down, some forward, some back. Rotates all the way around. Hinges up, swivel at the bicep, double elbow comes all the way. Swivel hinge swivel at the wrist, hidden nicely with that wrist wrap. Get there, and if you want to turn it and change it to where it's up and down, you can do that too. I think it's a dumbbell joint at the mid-torso, ball joint at the waist. Together, you can crunch, arc back, some tilt both ways, swivels. The crotch is also a rubber overlay piece. There is a swivel that comes up to here, goes back, and then there's a hinge outside of that that gets better than some Spider-Man. There's also some rotation there. Double knee comes up most of the way. Swivel at the top of the ankle. Hinge below that goes back, forward. Front facing pin for a little bit of rocker. Move around the pants to get it to rock. And then a toe joint that goes all the way. For accessories, of course, there is the chain with the hook on the end of it. This is sculpted to be wrapped. Well, actually, there's a single one, and then it works down to a double wrap. Link the chain running down to the hook, and then that has some nice wear and tear to it. This has seen a lot. Because it is rubbery, you can get it around the hand. You have to kind of watch the thumb. Get around that, push it up. But like a lot of McFarlane toys, the hands, very, very tough. Not very flexible. But this is kind of rubbery. Thankfully, it can flex, work its way into the hand. From there, you have to kind of finesse it because it's sculpted. Well, okay, it is rubbery, but it also holds its position, sticking straight out right there. Pull through the hand until the bent part is on the other side. That will give you the effect of it just hanging down. Oops, went too far. Pull it back just a little bit. That feels more natural. I did put this in the hand earlier for pictures and stuff, took it back out for the review, and you may want to be careful when pulling it back through. It feels like it's flexing a little too far at times. If you feel like you're stretching it or breaking it, stop. Don't break it. I doubt this comes out of the hand ever again. Lobo is a big fella, standing at 7 13/16, and it honestly surprised me when he turned out smaller than the Mattel DC Universe Classics 2008 San Diego exclusive Lobo. But then, of course, it's bigger than the more recent Mattel DC Multiverse Collect and Connect Lobo. Is that what they called them? I still like this as a more regular size Lobo, but this outperforms it. Sculpt, paint, articulation, size, everything. If you do have this San Diego Lobo, then you have this dog. And that works both size-wise and aesthetically. He also clocks bigger than McFarlane's DC Multiverse Superman and Batman's, which totally works. Size-wise, it'll also work with your old DC Universe Classics. Again, because this is actually smaller than what Mattel gave us. But there is more sculpt detail than a lot of those older figures. It'll work with DC Icons and Medicom's Mafex Hush line. If you're wanting to fit him other places, here he is with the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper version 1 and the Hasbro Marvel Legends Black Panther. And then finally, the Jazzwares AEW Unrivaled Broken Matt Hardy and the Mattel WWE Ultimate Bray Wyatt Fiend. Wait a second. So at the end of the day, whether you do 6 or 7-inch scale, here's a Lobo for your shelf. For the most part, McFarlane skews into specific storylines for designs and overall looks of characters. But every now and then we get a figure like Lobo, where it's kind of a generic look, or maybe he doesn't change when it comes to New 52 or Rebirth or everything else. I don't know. I don't follow a lot of that, but in my mind's eye, this is what Lobo looks like. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is there's a formula to Lobo. They may make them bigger, bulkier, smaller. They may change a couple of things here, bigger hair, smaller hair, but the basic elements are usually there And this figure nails them. It's different enough to stand out against the other Lobos and be its own thing, but at the same time, it's just Lobo. It's frackin' Lobo. It's that Bastich Lobo. And really, do I need to say anything else? If you enjoyed the overview, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. It wasn't until I was setting up for this last pose that I realized that because of the swivel above the ankle, you could turn that and then swivel the foot and use the hinge as the rocker, and it gives you kind of super rocker. Well, I say super, it's still stopped by the pants on both sides, but it gives you a lot more range than just the forward-facing pin. So if you're down for more extreme poses, you may want to keep that in mind.